Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Cabinet meeting of the 3rd of December 2024. I'm Councillor Ashley Baxter. I'm the Leader of the Council and Chairman of this committee. To my left is Councillor Paul Stokes, who is the Deputy Leader and Vice Chairman of this committee. To my right is Richard Wiles, the Deputy Chief Executive, and to his right is Graham Watts, the Assistant Director, Governance and Public Protection and Monitoring Officer. You need a little badge with all that written on. If you could be so kind as to turn your mobile phones to stun, as I'm about to do, or to silent or to off, that would be much appreciated. If you hear the fire alarm, it isn't a drill. You will need to leave the room by the nearest available exit and assemble on St Peter's Hill in front of this building. If you wish to ask a question or make a comment, please raise your hand. The meeting is being recorded and can be watched as a live stream via the SKDC Public Eye website. The recordings can be viewed after the meeting on the Public Eye website and also on the SKDC YouTube channel. Please note it is likely that the Grantham Town Centre footfall activity agenda item will be deferred, as will one other, the venue hire agenda hire, the venue hire agenda item. The public open forum will be today's first item, but before I get to that, if you're wondering what this shiny badge is on my lapel, it is the district. Many people viewing will be interested in what's on my lapel. I had the pleasure of going to celebrate the 50 years of the District Council network the other day, because District Councils have been here now for 50 and a half years. The event was delayed by 6 months because of goings on in Westminster. I understand there was an election. So congratulations, 50th birthday, hurrah. I also want to say well done to Kay and her team, who have made it through to Blackpool this week, tomorrow. Tomorrow we will find out whether or not we have won, having been shortlisted, whether or not we have won the Most Improved Waste Authority of the Year. So we're cheering for you, Reece and Kay. Without further ado, I'll go through today's agenda. Do we have any public speakers? No. Great. So, apologies for absence. We have none. We are all here. Do we have any disclosures of interest? We have none. The minutes of the previous meeting held on the 5th of November. Do we have any comments on those minutes, or can we agree that they are an accurate record of what took place on the 5th of November? Yes, we can. Thank you. Can I take a vote on that to accept the minutes? All those in favour? All those against? All those abstention? That is unanimous. So moving on to the first agenda item, the council tax base for 25-26. This is my report, and a council tax of 50,140.5 is our council tax base, our proposed council tax base for next year, in accordance with the relevant legislation. This forms the basis on which we will estimate council tax income for the 25-26 budget. Statute requires us to calculate a council tax base within the time frame. Within the relevant time frame, and we need to inform our preceptors of the council tax base by the 31st of January 2025. They are the Police and Crime Commissioner, the County Council and the parish councils. The council tax base forms part of the calculation for the council tax for the local area, so we need to agree how many there are. In determining the council tax base, adjustments are made for the localised council tax support and the empty property premium. As detailed in Table 1 of the report, the proposed tax base for South Kesteven is 50,000 140.5 Band D equivalent properties, which is an increase of 0.86 on the previous financial year, so an increase of nearly 1%. Appendix A analyses these figures at a parish level. If the recommendation is supported, it will be used in the calculation and budget preparations for 2025. I'd like to propose this. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Do I have any questions or comments on the council tax base 25-26? Hopefully not. It's an arithmetic exercise, although I know that Richard and his team have worked hard to come up with this figure, as they do each year, and we're grateful for that. But could we please vote on the recommendation that we set a base of 50,140.5? All those in favour? All those against? Abstentions? That is unanimous. Thank you. And now it's time for the award of contract for Guildhall Arts Centre Pantomime. Oh, yes it is. And I'll hand you over to Paul Stokes to present this item.
Thank you, Leader. The annual pantomime at the Guildhall Arts Centre is a most significant event in the Arts Centre programme. Typically selling around 10,000 tickets each year, the Arts Centre has developed a track record for delivering professional, high-quality performances over a period from late November to early January each year. As well as generating valuable income for the centre, these performances also generate footfall from a non-traditional theatre audience, also adding significant economic benefit to Grantham. I'm pleased to report that after a compliant procurement process, including compliance with additional equity requirements, the successful contractor is Polka Dot Pantomimes, and I am asking for Cabinet colleagues' support in awarding this contract for a period of 1 year with the potential to extend for a maximum 3 further years. Furthermore, I am asking that delegated authority is provided to myself and the Assistant Director for Leisure, Culture and Place to agree the extension of the contract beyond the first year. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Reese.
Not so much a question, just to emphasise how big this is. 10,000 ticket sales is fantastic. It's brilliant news for the local economy. And I'm told, Councillor Stokes, that people might book it more than a year in advance. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. Many people, as they leave, book again for the next year, and that's why it's quite important to get this, well, very important to get this voted through today.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to attending the performance of A Christmas Carol at Stamford Arts Centre, but I'm also going to a pantomime as well, which is great, but it's in Stamford, not in the Guildhall Arts Centre. This is a planted question, does Equity have an opinion on this appointment?
Yeah, Equity have, along with several pantomimes, looked at several pantomime productions, and they raised various queries to ourselves as a district council as to were our provider complying with certain practices. We had discussions with Equity Direct and then with Polka Dot Pantomimes, and they have, Equity have acknowledged the fact that we've taken on board their requirements.
Thank you. Any further questions? If not, then are you proposing?
Yes.
Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Rayside. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to the award of contract security services. This is Councillor Cleaver.
Thank you, Chairman. This report follows a compliant procurement process to appoint a preferred supplier to deliver the Council's security requirements. The Council has a requirement for security provision across a wide range of activities, as set out in the report. A previous report on this subject, as you may know, was due to be considered at our October meeting. However, the decision was deferred to allow further due diligence to take place. This has now taken place, and following final evaluation and moderation, I am pleased to recommend that the contract for the Council's security services is awarded to A1 Fire and Security Solutions Limited. The contract will be for an initial period of 3 years, with the option to extend the arrangement for a further 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cleaver. Any questions? If not, then would somebody like to second the proposal? Thank you, Councillor Knowles. All those in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous. Our next agenda item concerns the contract award for ventilation services in the Council's housing stock and will be introduced by Councillor Moran.
Thank you, Chair. This is to look at the award of a contract to EnviroVent for the installation and maintenance of ventilation systems in dwellings owned by South Kesteven District Council. The value of the contract is up to £150,000 for a period of 2 years, with the option to extend for a further 1 year plus 1 year. The proposals have been undertaken in accordance with the Council's contract procedure rules. As I said, the current allocated budget is £150,000 a year. The proposed 4-year contract will therefore total £600,000. EnviroVent are currently ranked first place on the framework for both quality and price. The Council is required to improve the ventilation within some properties to take preventative action against the build-up of condensation, which can lead to issues with damp and mould and difficulties with temperature regulation for thermal comfort. When the Council receives reports of damp and mould, the damp and mould surveyor will work with tenants to produce a survey to identify the actions which need to be taken, and this quite often involves automatic ventilation. I therefore ask that we approve the contract. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We know that historically people have had some troubles with damp and mould in our properties, and it's good that we're awarding this contract, hopefully, to put things right. Respecting the energy management trinity of heating, good insulation and good ventilation. Does anyone want to second the proposal, or does anyone have any questions? Councillor Baker, you're seconding. Yes. Any questions or comments? No. In that case, all those in favour? That's super. That's unanimous again. Thank you. We're staying with Councillor Moran for the contract award for void property repair works.
Yeah, I'm absolutely delighted to bring this forward, actually. This will further help us in the great strides that we're making in reducing the amount of time, the turnaround time of void properties. I'm asking us to approve a further contract to Foster Property Management Limited, who are our current providers, and an additional new contract to Grattan Construction Limited for the provision of void property repair work to council-owned social housing stock. The contracts will be awarded for an initial period of 3 years with an option to extend for 1 year plus 1 year. The annual contract value will be up to £2 million, which will be split between the two contractors. On an annual basis, between 150 and 200 properties are returned to the council which require major void works. This includes replacement kitchens, bathrooms, electrical and general refurbishment works. These contracts will be used to undertake the works, which will ensure that properties meet the South Kesteven Voids quality standard prior to them being re-let. It's worth repeating, I think, what I've said at previous meetings, is that the percentage of properties that are returned to the council as a major void has increased enormously over the past few years, and I think we're all aware of how this has come about. As regards the contract, the council initially received 18 tender submissions. this was reduced down to about 13, I think it was, almost immediately. And then following the completion of the evaluation process, a moderation meeting was held with Welland Procurement on the 20th of November. The result of that, the first ranked provider is Foster Property, who we're currently with and wishing to extend, and second place was Grattan Construction. So if I could ask you to approve the contract, I'd be very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction. Does anybody have any questions or comments about Councillor Stokes first?
Councillor Moran, could I just ask, is there any geographical limit within the district to the two tenderers, or are they both going to react within the whole district?
Yeah, they'll both respond to the whole district. We didn't see a lot of point in the geographical, because if for some reason there was a lot less, say, in the south of the district than the north, we didn't want the contractors not sitting idle, because they'd never be idle, but not under any compunction. They wouldn't have the amount of properties to deal with that we want them to do on I think it's 20 each on a monthly basis. So they'll work wherever we've got properties that need doing.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
I really welcome this, and again it is a turnaround in housing more generally since coming out of special measures, and shows the huge amount of work that has been done by the officers, by the contractors, by staff, and that hasn't just happened, that has been led by two very talented councillors on this cabinet driving that improvement forward. I love how this shows that we are being proactive. I'm sure we've all had residents contact us saying, I need a new property and I know number 43 on Smith Street is empty, why can't I go in there? And I hope that this is contextualising that we are seeing this increased number of properties returned to us in a state that is not fit to hand on. So whilst I really empathise with that frustration, it frustrates me, it frustrates everybody on this council, we do have to make sure we have a duty to hand those properties on in a decent standard. It's an investment in the health of the family moving in as well. This is fantastic. This is showing proactive engagement, and long may it continue.
Here, here. Any further comments or questions? Officers don't need to say anything, so we'll take... Have I got a second? I'm presuming that Councillor Stokes or Baker would like to second. Councillor Stokes, okay. All those in favour? All those against? All those abstentions? That was unanimous. Thank you. Now it's my turn to talk to you about the Finance Update Report, April to September 2024, to present the year-end forecast for the financial year, this financial year, as at the 30th of September, including the general account, the HRA budget, the capital programmes for general and HRA. This is the second budget monitoring report for this year, and the first to include forecasting information up to the end of this financial year. It's undertaken on a quarterly basis, and the committee will receive the next monitoring report in February 25 up to the period ending 31st of December. The report confirms that there is a forecast underspend for the general fund and HRA revenue, partly because of our excellent management and good accounting strategies and excellent staff who have put this report together between them, but also because of lower than budgeted fuel costs, lower than budgeted salary costs because of a lower pay settlement than had been assumed, and a higher than budgeted investment income due to a higher base rate and the securing of longer term investments. So that's good news and good news. In terms of the capital programme, the report provides a summary of the main variances with explanations. The report also confirms collection rates for council tax, which are excellent, I think best in class in Lincolnshire at least. Collection rates for council tax, business rates and rents, which are on track with the collection profiling. The report includes a finance risk register, which I think we've had a second edition of with the RAG. The biggest risk being the borrowing rates for funding capital schemes. The Council continues to avoid this cost and by undertaking internal borrowing rather than needing to use the PWLB, which, as you know, is the Public Works Loan Board. I did have a comment prior to this meeting, which I wonder if the 151 officer can help with, which is that risk item 1 is listed as very high, 12 very high, likelihood 4, impact 3 for capital programmes requiring borrowing in the medium term. But the risk, actually that's gone. Yeah, sorry, is that what the update to the report was about? Yeah, okay. I do beg your pardon. Do we have any comments or questions about the financial update? And does the 151 officer would like to make a few comments?
I can never resist the urge to grab the mic when invited. So I think the only comment I would make is, as everyone's seen the announcements for next year, but probably more importantly the subsequent years, where the Labour government has set out a pathway that's going to be quite challenging, I think, for all the sector. And this council is particularly adversely affected by the loss of the Rural Services Delivery Grant. We were enjoying a value of 400,000, albeit it was only ever a one-off grant. We had become accustomed to receiving it, but we have now had confirmation that won't be available for us from next year onwards. It's going to be repurposed into a different grant, which we're probably not going to be a beneficiary of. So I think direction of travel on this year is going to be helpful for us, because hopefully at the very least we can bolster our reserves as a consequence of the underspend, which will give us some cushion for both what we can expect from next year but the subsequent years. So I think it's, as Councillor Baxter said, it's a positive direction of travel we're in, but I think it's a good opportunity for us to bank some of that underspend to cushion us from some of the challenges that are likely to come our way in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Any comments? If not, we are requested to review and note the forecast for 2024-25 for the General Fund, the HRA, Revenue and Capital in both cases, and identify any variances requiring action or further investigation. Happily, the Finance Committee have already looked at this and offered their wisdom and feedback, for which we're grateful. But at this point, are we happy to review and note the content of the report? Yes? Okay, great. Thanks. In that case, I will move on to agenda item 11, which is the Discretionary Council Tax Payment Policy 2025 to 26. So, the purpose of the report is to update discretionary council tax payment expenditure and request Cabinet approval for the policy for 25-26. Total funding for 24-25 is £28,568, with current expenditure of £18,332. Consequently, there is £20,236 remaining to be awarded by the end of March. The administration and payment of the DCTP, the Discretionary Council Tax Payment, is at the discretion of each council, and we have a DCTP policy which sets out eligibility for the scheme and the application process. There are no changes proposed to the current policy, which is included with this report, but we will continue to review on an annual basis, not only to ensure the policy is fit for purpose, but also to be reactive to any issues that our residents face. Do I have any questions or comment on the discretionary council tax policy or the update? If not, then I'm happy to propose. Councillor Baker has seconded. Those in favour? Oh, I beg your pardon. Sorry, I thought you were seconding rather than...
Happy to second. I just wanted to emphasise the numbers in the consultation. With the yes, I think the discretionary payment scheme should continue hitting 93.5% of the respondents. So even in straitened times where we have a duty to look at every single penny of the council spend, we know that this is a policy that means a lot to people and does an awful lot of good, and it shows that we are listening to that.
Indeed it does. Thank you for that. But you're still happy to second? Great. All those in favour, please? That's unanimous. Thank you. We now move on to the similar, related, but different discretionary housing payment policy for 25-26. The purpose of the report is to update you on expenditure and request Cabinet approval for the policy. The discretionary housing payment policy, discretionary housing payment can be awarded when a housing benefit or universal credit recipient has a shortfall between their award and their eligible rent. Before a payment is awarded, consideration will be given to whether all other discounts and sources of help have been exhausted. Where appropriate, decisions will be deferred until other avenues have been explored. Funding for this discretionary payments is determined by the Department for Work and Pensions, and funding of £155,861 for this year was confirmed on the 23rd of April this year, which is the same level as last year. Currently, expenditure is at £91,309, and officers are predicting total spend of the full amount that has been funded. The proportion of awards approved for this year is 38.67%, which means that 140 applications have been approved out of 363 that were submitted. The reasons that those 62% were not admitted are listed at paragraph 2.11. The administration and payment is a discretionary function of the Council, and we have a policy which sets out the eligibility. We plan no changes at this point to the current policy, but once again we will keep it under review annually to make sure that it makes sense and meets the needs of our residents. There are no changes proposed, so I would propose that we accept this report and the policy attached. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Stokes. Does anyone have any questions? In that case, I'll move to a vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 13, and 12. I've got it down as 13. 13. Yeah, we added the open forum at the beginning of the meeting, so perhaps that should have been at item 0. But anyway, in case you're in any doubt, the Ropsley Conservation Area Appraisal is a report from Councillor Dilks, please.
Thank you, Leader. Would it be appropriate that we take this item and the next item, as they are similar, and that we then vote on them separately? Is that okay with you,
That would be very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure we're all proud that in South Kesteven we have the first conservation area in the country, i.e. Stamford. And I'm pleased to say that Stamford is now one of 48 conservation areas across the length and breadth of South Kesteven. It's important that we do recognise and celebrate the rich heritage and culture across our towns and villages, and conservation areas help us to do that. They provide a link to the past, a sense of stability and continuity in a fast-changing world. It's important, though, that we review each of the conservation areas from time to time, and that's why these two reports are before you today. Detailed reports, each 40-odd pages long, that reflect the detailed work that has been done by our conservation team in these two areas of Ropsley and Aylesby by Ariane Bushman and James Adams, and I pay tribute to the work that they've done. The reviews before you that they've looked at the conservation areas. They've suggested light changes to the boundaries of each, as well as adding in and removing a couple of limited specific properties, as well as, I say, adding in a couple of areas, extending them. I'm asking today for Cabinet approval to take these reports to public consultation There'll be public meetings, if passed today, in the new year in each of the communities. And just to say, they are important because once adopted, the amendments in these appraisals, subject to any changes, will become material considerations when considering planning applications within the conservation areas. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. Do we have any comments on either the conservation area appraisal for Ropsley or for Aylesbury?
I'm happy to move them.
I'd just like to take... Was that all right? I'd just like to take this opportunity to remind Cabinet that Aylesbury had the Church of the Year, and I think that's something that we should also be celebrating.
Yes, thank you for reminding us. The UK Church of the Year, St James the Great, and I'm pleased to see on page 160 the Parish Church of St James the Great is referred to as such, and not that it would be confused with any of the other churches in Aylesbury, because I don't think there are any, but it's so. Oh, okay. So yeah, we celebrated that last time. I think we are aware, and I've got it on my list of places to visit in South Kesteven to go and see what's going on at St James the Great, UK Church of the Year. Councillor Stokes.
I think both of these conservation area appraisals highlight the wonderful nature of our rural areas, really. We've got several villages that are absolutely fantastic. And I think it's also worth noting, given that Aylesbury's got this conservation area, and that it's also got several fantastic things in the village beyond the church. Southlinks Engineering are based there, and they sit there comfortably working on multi-million-pound contracts with Rolls-Royce and people like that. And also they've got a wonderful pub, which is the Robin Hood Inn, where everybody could call in and have a nice lunch. So good luck to them.
Thank you. I was going to say the Robin Hood pub is also on my list of places in South Kesteven to visit. Councillor Cleaver.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'd just like to echo what Councillor Stokes has said. I mean, the fact that two of these in front of us today underlines the administration's commitment to the villages in our district and recognises the need for conservation and recognition of keeping those villages as they should be. And I'd also like to thank our officers that have prepared this. There's a lot of work goes into these. This isn't something that gets done in a fortnight. There's a heck of a lot of work goes into them, and we should be grateful to our wonderful planning team for finding the time to do this on top of everything else that they do in their considering all the planning applications that we have coming in and all of that as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I was also going to say, it's a fascinating read, isn't it? I hadn't realised the associations of Aylesbury with the Knights Templar, and given our recent press statements about set jetting, I hope that when they review and roll out the franchise for the Da Vinci Code films, when they resurrect that they'll be coming here instead of Venice. Who's proposing? You're proposing these. So we'll do Ropsley first. Are we happy to approve a consultation of the change of boundary and publication of the Ropsley Area Conservation Area Appraisal as listed on your agenda for Ropsley? Seconded by Councillor Knowles. All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. And secondly, for
approving publication of the appraisal document.
Yes, yeah, approving consultation of a change of boundary and approving publication of the Ropsley Conservation Area appraisal for consultation. Yes, that's why I said as written on your agenda, because that's what will go into the minutes. So we've approved that. Oh, Councillor Rayside. No. Do we have a seconder for the Hazelby? Yes, Councillor Rayside is seconding your proposal, Phil, for the Hazelby Conservation Area appraisal, which, for avoidance of doubt, is that we approve consultation of the change of boundary of the Hazelby Conservation Area boundary as shown in Appendix A to this report, and we approve the publication of the Hazelby Conservation Area Appraisal Appendix 1 for consultation. That's been proposed and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous once again. The agenda item 14 or 15, depending on which version you've got, is the venue hire and external speaker policy, which we are going to defer to our next meeting. And the item after that, item 16, is also, I'm proposing to defer, but for reasons that I might explain. The recent meeting of the Finance, Economic and Overview Scrutiny Committee was presented with a report about the town centre footfall, and after some discussion required further information from officers, and were kind of willing to approve the short-term actions. But I think at this point I'm content, having spoken to the relevant officers, that the actions within the first part of the action plan would not be would not be torpedoed by the deferment of this item. The FIOSC, Finance Economic Overview Scrutiny Group, also asked for a clarification of the report, or a further report, and a meeting. The meeting, as of this morning, was scheduled for the 23rd of December. Happy Christmas, Mr. Scrooge. I've spoken to the chair of the committee, and we have agreed that it would be better to have that meeting in early January rather than on the day before Christmas Eve. So that's what will happen, and when that meeting has taken place, we will bring this report back to Cabinet for what approval is necessary for a discussion of a footfall report then. Footfall report and Grantham Town Centre Action Plan. So apparently I need it to vote on this. Are we happy to defer the items on venue hire and Grantham Town Centre footfall? I'm proposing that. Councillor Dilks is seconding that. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Great. Thank you. Which brings us to item 16/17. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Leader. I am introducing to Cabinet something that I introduced to the Environment Overview and Scrutiny Committee not that long ago, asking you to consider the case for expanding our bulky waste collection service. I have, as many of us have, spoken in this chamber about fly tipping, litter, and the scourge on our rural countryside location of the criminality around disposing of fridges, tyres, bulky items in a very unsafe and dangerous and environmentally irresponsible way. We currently operate a bulky waste collection service with one vehicle, with an average of 21 booking slots available per day, allowing us to collect around about 400 bulky waste items per month. What this report proposes is expanding that service to a second vehicle, doubling our capacity and therefore working on the backlog that is in the system. It's a very popular service. It is, as we currently understand it, very nicely priced compared to surrounding authorities, although I do want to make very clear that we're not determining the pricing structure in this meeting. We are simply determining whether we want to move forward with a second caged vehicle. Bulky waste across the country is the sort of service that just about washes its face. It doesn't make a massive profit, doesn't make a massive loss. We've considered at length all of the pros and cons at the cross-party Environment Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and I would like to recommend that we move forward with the initial proceedings to expand our service, subject, as I say, to the budget setting process.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. The recommendation is that Cabinet review the business case for an expansion to the bulky waste collection service and considers whether the proposal should be included in the budget setting proposals for 25-26. I'm grateful for your work on this, Councillor Baker, and also to the team behind you that have done the arithmetic on this report and the practicalities and so on. I know from experience, I have a regular correspondent who is a member of the waste industry in the Deepings, who reports on feedback from his customers about the bulky waste collection service, which is fine, but he often comments that there is a delay, there is quite a lengthy delay sometimes for people phoning for a bulky waste collection and that collection happening. So obviously the expansion of the bulky waste collection service will enable us to be hopefully quicker, more responsive, and a more responsive service is likely to be a more popular service. I'm not saying we're driving demand, we don't want your old fridge. Please keep your old fridge for as long as you can, but when it does conk out, we'd like people to come to us if they need to, rather than irresponsibly disposing. I can see all these hands going up, but I do need to go on and say that while we're talking about this item, for clarity, we are not here deciding the fees and charges for the bulky waste service next year. That's a different conversation in a different meeting. Although the calculations and arithmetic within this report are based on particular assumptions about how much what changes would take place to the fee for bulky items collection, that is not the deciding factor on whether or not we need a second vehicle. Conversations continue to take place as part of the budget setting process. We will, as a Cabinet and as portfolio holder for finance and economic development, I will be bringing forward a recommendation for a change to the bulky waste collection fee charge, and obviously in presenting a recommendation for the bulky waste charge, I'll take into account the costs and benefits and likely changes in demand of having an extra vehicle. So this is only a conversation about whether or not we have an extra vehicle. It's nothing to do with the fees and charges that we charge for that much improved likely service. Right, going through the hands that have been up, I think Phil Knowles, you were first.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a question on the disposal of the waste. Clearly, we collect it and somebody else disposes of it. Where is that disposal largely now, and will that change if we have a broader ask for disposable waste?
Excellent question, as always. We are a collection authority. We are not a disposal authority. We work with our partners at Lincolnshire County Council. We work through the various waste transfer stations dotted around the district. But for the absolute detail on this, I must defer to the Chief Officer on Waste, and that is Kay, sat behind me. Sorry, Kay.
That's okay. No, there'd be no change, so it'd go exactly as Councillor Baker said. We've got disposal places around the district, and we'd continue to dispose of it exactly the same. We don't anticipate the volumes would be enough to require any differences to our disposal arrangements, so it would just be as normal.
And I'd add to that in recent times, since this administration came in, we've actually found a place in the Deepings where we're able to dispose of some of the waste that we collect, which means that instead of driving to Deeping, filling up the wagon, bringing it back to Grantham or wherever, we're now able to drive down to Deeping, collect, dispose in the Deepings, and then collect again, which means that the service is already improved. Think how much it would improve with an extra vehicle. The next hand I had up was Councillor Dilks.
Thank you, Leader. I've got to say I really welcome this initiative and say thank you to Rhys and to the Environmental Overview and Scrutiny for taking such a positive view of it. I personally, will be supporting it 100%. I actually, I think colleague Phil's question was really important, perhaps for another day, on what happens to these things. Do these fridges get landfilled, or is there any possibility of doing what the gentleman that you and I, who we know in Deepings, does actually proper recycling and takes the whole things apart and really recycles them, and the precious metals go into separate bins and so on. So I do question, but as I say, that's probably for another day. But clearly, to have another, there is a backlog. The demand is clearly there. It will represent value for money, yes, subject to whatever the costings will be when those are decided. And the value for money comes not just in allowing people to get rid of those things, but it will, I am sure, save us money in preventing fly tipping costs, cleaning up messes that we see at the side of the road, left bedspreads and mattresses and fridges at the side of the road or in lay-bys all too often. We should be prosecuting more of those, personally. But when I saw that the bulky waste services were going to be made more bulky, I was a bit worried about that, but I do support it 100%. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. I think actually that conversation about how we recycle the materials is actually for a different time, as you said, but also a different chamber, because as Councillor Baker has pointed out, we collect, the county council dispose, so we can chase that through the county council. Councillor Rayside.
As a cabinet member for fly tipping, I'd like to say that I'm extremely pleased for the work that's gone into this, and thank you. This service will hopefully now allow residents to dispose of their large items responsibly, and hopefully this expansion will significantly reduce the illegal dumping that we're dealing with. And the other benefits would be that it promotes recycling and ensures that the bulky waste is disposed of in an environmentally responsible manner. And by offering this service, South Kesteven's maintaining that we are promoting clean, safe, sustainable communities across our district.
Quite right, thank you. Councillor Moran, we're all on the go at this one. Councillor Moran.
I wanted to second it, that was all. I didn't hear that anybody had seconded it.
You got in first, but not before. Councillor Cleaver, do you have... No? Okay. Mr Wiles.
I just wanted to clarify the wording, because that looks like my kind of wording, therefore it looks quite clumsy. So what we're looking for from yourselves today is support to include this in your budget proposals. So if that is the support given today, officers will build that into the budget reports that will be going before Scrutiny Committee on the 14th of January. There are cost and revenue implications in this proposal, because there's an outlay required for additional vehicle and there are additional staffing implications. And as has already been said, the fees and charges element of that will run through its own process, which will be Cabinet in January and Council in January. So if there's positive support today, we'll build it into your proposals. That will then get scrutinised and ultimately go to Council on the 27th of February as part of your budget setting. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. And yes, I think, if I've heard Councillor Baker and Councillor Moran properly, that we are asking the Cabinet to recommend. Hang on. We're asking the Cabinet to recommend that an expansion to the bulky waste collection service be considered as part of the budget setting proposals for 25-26. Does that sound correct? Right. I'm sure that it will be reflected well in the minutes. It's been proposed and seconded. All those in favour, please. That is unanimous. So, thank you. People do say sometimes that we talk rubbish in council meetings, but only in a good way. So, without further ado, we move on to the annual compliant performance and service. It definitely says, oh yes, sorry, yeah. Virginia, what are you talking about today?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to present Cabinet with the 23-24 Annual Complaint Performance and Service Improvement Report, which is a mandatory requirement of the updated Housing Ombudsman Complaint Handling Code. I'll give you the headline first, and then I'll crave your indulgence for the amount of detail I'll give you about this. But I think it's important that we understand exactly what the complaints procedure is in the report that we've got here. In 23-24, the Housing Directorate received 284 Stage 1 complaints, compared with 371 in 22-23. This shows a 23% decrease in initial complaints. The number of complaints escalated to Stage 2 in 23-24 was 39, compared to 21 in 22-23. Excuse me. There was a positive reduction in the total number of complaints, which is reflective of the continuous service improvements that housing strives to achieve. There's details in there on what is included in the report, the process, the number of complaints, how we did them, when we did them. A key point to note is that the Council can only provide root cause information of 129 of the complaints received in 23-24. The corporate complaints system, Meritech, is being updated to change the root cause field for complaints to a mandatory field. This will ensure that going forward, all service areas within the Council will be able to analyse all the complaints, identify trends and actions that need to be taken to avoid repeat complaints being received on the same issue. One of the outcomes of being able to do this, sort of drilling down into the root causes, has resulted in the formation of the damp and mould team, because we were able to identify a definite trend in complaints, and we could take specific action to minimise, if not eradicate, the complaints within that. Once the Meritech system has been updated, the housing team will review all of the housing complaints received during 24-25 to ensure that the root cause field is populated. This isn't the first time we've come across a lack of information from previous years due to there's various reasons why things were not recorded properly. So it's quite nice for us to know that now they will be recorded properly. I don't know what Alison's doing behind me. It's probably having an heart attack.
She's nodding in agreement.
Yeah, well, it's to speak plainly, it's like every time we turn around to try and find out some proper numbers on things, you know, there's no proper records, or there's minimal records being kept, or 6 different people have got different versions of different records, and we have to put staff in to say, right, can we go back to square one, let's start at the beginning and do it properly, and then we can carry on doing it properly. Anyway, I digress. As regards the improved complaints handling, we have a centralised approach to handling complaints, and we now have 3 officers in the Housing and Projects Directorate who are responsible for logging and assigning complaints into the system to officers, for officers to investigate and respond. This has led to better response times and consistent responses being produced. Regular meetings are held with compliant handlers and management. Monthly meetings are held between senior officers to review complaints and identify lessons that can be learnt and identify and implement service improvements. the improved service delivery has been helped by tenant satisfaction measures. We continue to talk to our tenants and get feedback from them, and this has resulted in changes to the repairs and maintenance policy, the tenancy management policy, the estate management policy, and the development of a new housing services antisocial behaviour policy. So the feedback from tenants is going to be increased because it's absolutely invaluable to us working through getting the numbers down for complaints. I mentioned the creation of the damp and mould team, which again was a direct result of looking into the figures and looking into the reasons. But there's more that we're going to do. As I said, we're going to implement some more tenant surveys. We're going to get more tenant involvement in reviewing and challenging how we deliver the housing service. And the housing strategy team has been established, which will ensure feedback from complaints, surveys and tenant engagement is collated along with performance information. This will ensure that there is a continuous cycle of review and improvement that becomes embedded into the housing service. And I'll stop now, and thank you for considering the report.
Thank you for that elegant report. Councillor Dilks.
I'm not sure I can be elegant. Thank you for the report, which I really welcome. I mean, it is part of the dialogue with tenants. We shouldn't be afraid of complaints. We learn from them, hopefully, if we take them on and we're fully accountable and we do listen to our tenants. And I just think that's part of the process that is, you know, Virginia's sort of improving on with the team, Alison and the whole team. And as you said, at the end of the day, you know, by looking at complaints, what people are telling us, we improve the service, or we work to improve the service. So I really welcome it and say thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? I'm personally fascinated by Appendix 2, the Housing Ombudsman Landlord Performance Report that compares our performance locally with national landlords of type and size and so on. It's fascinating. Is this the first year it's been done? It's the first year it's been done because you, as I often say about data, the more data you get, the more data you want, and it will be nice next year to look back and see how it's changed between one year and another, and this kind of ongoing performance analysis, comparing ourselves with others, comparing ourselves with historic is definitely helpful. And also a shout out to your performance team, Councillor Knowles, for the online performance indicators, which are now, some of them are in the form of Power BI, so you can really dig down deep into the data, deep down into the data of our performance indicators for the council. So, Virginia, having elegantly presented this report, if I've got no more comments from officers or members, do I have a seconder? I do. Councillor Dilks. Those in favour... Well, it's asking that Cabinet provide feedback on the annual complaint performance for submission. I think Virginia's given some of the feedback. Do we need to resolve anything on this, Graham? No? Oh, okay. Well, the report is welcome, is noted, and we look forward to next year's edition. When Councillor Moran promises it will be even better. The Cabinet Forward Plan, so I'm varying the agenda very slightly. I'm going to bring the Cabinet Forward Plan next. So this is an item for noting. As I say every meeting, it's a lively document. It could change at a moment's notice, but the current forward plan is in front of you. I don't know if Mr. Watts or anybody else wants to make any comments about the forward plan. No? Does anybody else want to make any comments about the forward plan, decisions coming forward? I assume that the 2 items that we've deferred will be reflected in the updated forward plan in the next edition or the next iteration. If there's no comments on that, that report is only for noting, so I will consider it noted. Not finally, but I'm next going to take open questions from councillors. We have a non-cabinet member in the room, Councillor Harrison. Thank you for attending as ever. Do you have any questions? You don't? Oh, well, that's very welcome. Okay. I understand that to fill the gap, Councillor Stokes is going to make a statement.
Thank you. First of all, I think it's worth advertising that his Bourne Christmas lights turn on Saturday, and hopefully the people would turn out in and around the Bourne area. Secondly, I understand that the Deeping market and lights went well on Sunday, and congratulations to all those involved. Thirdly, I would like to thank everybody who was involved in the Grantham Christmas Fair and lights turn on. It's a long while since I've seen that many people in and around Grantham, notwithstanding the weather in the morning, but in the afternoon the town was absolutely bursting with people. So the whole event was absolutely amazing. I would like to thank particularly everybody who was involved, but the officers who were involved on that day did an amazing job, and I know that the planning of that event took many, many months. So the actual day turned out really well. As with any event, there's 1 or 2 little bits that you have to deal with on the day, and I thought it was dealt with in a first-class way. When I left, it was unfortunate that they were having to actually deal with an ambulance case, which had happened as well. So none of those things were easy, but I think absolute congratulations to everybody for staging an amazing event.
Thank you for that. It's noted. Councillor Cleaver, did you want to mention Stamford? I'm guessing you're going to mention Stamford. Are you going to mention Stamford?
I might. It just occurred to me that it would be appropriate to remind everybody that Saturday is Small Business Saturday, and that as a district council we strongly support the small businesses that add so much to our community and keep our town centres alive and thriving. So I'm sure that we'll all want to be involved in something to support them this Saturday. And also, because this is our last cabinet before Christmas, it also seems appropriate to remind everybody to support our art centres with all of their Christmas programmes and encourage all of our residents to go along and enjoy themselves there too. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and thank you also, Councillor Stokes. The feedback that I've had from officers and other people who attended the Christmas market in Grantham was just a phenomenal event, and one in what is becoming a series of events in Grantham Town Centre to complement and or rival the success of markets and events in Stamford and elsewhere around the district. Do I have any further comments before we attempt to get... Oh, I do, yes. Councillor Harrison.
Sorry, Chair, it wasn't a question, that's why I said I didn't have a question, but I did want to echo Councillor Stokes. The Sunday was fantastic. We witnessed firsthand, Steve and I witnessed firsthand all the effort and the work that had gone into it, particularly on that day. There were a number of things that did go wrong, but were dealt with admirably. It finished off the year fantastically well. And the feedback from the public has been immense. Even today, walking around, everybody was telling me to pass on their thanks for such a great event.
Thank you. The feedback is warmly received. And I was just going to say thank you to you, Councillor Harrison, and to the other Grantham councillors in particular for their work on yesterday's, but also not just on the Grantham Christmas Christmas market. Also over the weekend, I know from a message I got from Councillor Cunnington that the Beedon Park relaunch took place over the weekend and is very well received by the people in that community in the Earlsfield estate. A great compliment to the not reopened, it never properly shut except for the refurbishment, the recently refurbished Earlsfield Community Centre, which has now got all kinds of events, line dancing and what have you, and private bookings. And I know that Councillor Cunnington was up at, I think, 2 o'clock in the morning, locking the door of the Earlsfield Community Centre. The work of a councillor never stops. Councillor Moran.
Yeah, you'd also almost taken the words out of my mouth. It's evident from what I see on social media that the local councillors in Grantham, there's about 5 or 6 of them, they may or may not all be independent. Every time there's a big event on or a small event, somewhere in there will be a local Grantham councillor who's been helping it along, who's been providing support. Nowhere does it say in the job description you have to do that, and I know quite a few of them spend inordinate hours helping things come off, arranging things, sourcing singers or market stall holders or stuff like that, and I just think they do a fantastic job for their residents.
Thank you for that. And yet they still find time to send the occasional email to the officers about all kinds of things which are in the job description. So it's warmly welcome. I know that the officers welcome the feedback from councillors without exception. Thank you for that. It's likely that the press and public will need to be excluded during the discussion of the following item, which is about the lease at Unit 2, the Picture House in Catherine's Road, Grantham. Unit 2, the Picture House in Catherine's Road, Grantham, is the currently vacant area underneath the council offices, but above the cinema. So it's below the council offices, it's above the cinema, it's next to our brand new refurbished customer service centre. That's where it is, and we're about to talk about a lease out that property, but we need to do that in a private session. So can I propose that we go into private session? That's seconded. Can I see all those in favour? That's agreed. Therefore, the press and public are excluded during discussion of the following agenda item because of the likelihood that information that is exempt under paragraph 3 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, as amended, would be disclosed. So thank you very much, all those of you who are, I'm sure, eager to hear what's happening to the lease at Unit 2, but won't be allowed. So thank you.